Well, I'm here, so now you can stop trying to fix me up. I am out of the house. With any luck, I'll be home in time for the Grey's Anatomy season finale.
Alexa, set reminder. Buy new shirts.
Okay, reminder set. Buy new shirts.
Let's get this over with.
I have a rule.
Don't spit in the wind?
No. Don't waste time. There's not enough of it for people like us.
People like us?
Well, no, you don't know what I mean.
Well, I mean, how could I know what you mean? I mean, I don't know you, right? I mean, I know where you work. I know you have a brother named Hal that lives in Spokane, but that's it. You know, and I get it. I mean, it's first date. It's a weird world. I mean, you don't know who I am. I could be a stalker, or I could be a CrossFitter, or I could be a Jehovah's Witness.
I'm pretty sure you're not a CrossFitter. Yeah. You know, when I was in college, my roommate and I drank an entire bottle of Tanqueray gin. I mean, no reason for it other than we were just stupid, rebellious kids acting like tawdry women in a Dickens novel. About 2/3 of the way through the bottle, I jumped on top of her and stuck my tongue in her mouth. Yep, I sexually assaulted my roommate. No political career for me. No, you wanted to know me. There you go. That's the worst thing I've ever done.
Why?
Just seemed like something I should do. I mean, I'm not proud of it, I'm not gay or even bi. I'm not even sure I liked it. I don't think women need to feel that kind of closeness in order to have sexual energy. If only we were that connected to the people we do have sex with. Anyway, I mean, we kept our clothes on the entire time, we never spoke of it again. And even now, the smell of pine makes me gag a little. Her name was Juliana. She was nice.
Susan used to sing everything. Her grocery list, her voice messages, plans for the day, everything. She'd fall asleep singing, and I'd have my head on her chest feeling the vibrations of her silly little songs, her breath hot on my forehead. I miss her rib cage. I miss her whole thoracic cavity, actually. At least until April 18th, 2018, when I did not love her singing anymore. Became grating and pretentious instead of sweet and endearing. Susan used to do community theater, and I would compare her to her theater friends, all of their Les Mis memes and their Shakespeare jokes. So it didn't make any sense. I mean, who was she performing for, right? But what really didn't make any sense is that I hated her for it. I fell out of love with my wife because she sang. That's the worst thing I ever did.
When I was a child, I wanted to be a receptionist because I love collating paper. I mean, I just love squaring the edges and tapping it on the short side, turning it 90 degrees and doing the long one. Nothing rattles me more than a ream of paper with one page misaligned. It's just like a loose thread waiting to jam your printer. Other teens, they want to wait tables or flip burgers, but I worked in a print shop. The other summer workers, they wanted to, mix ink and press posters, but not me. I wanted to jog that wonderful machine that shakes that 60-pound index until it is a solid block of white. Collating paper was my first love.
My first love was a millionaire railroad heiress. I was in love with Dagny Taggart, the heroine of Atlas Shrugged. My sophomore year of high school, this new girl came to school, and she was tall, she had long hair, she wore this pinstriped Liz Claiborne dress, just like Ayn Rand described Dagny Taggart. Well, except my age, of course. Her name was Kathy Reed. And the first day, I went to go talk to her. And I was going to discuss with her, I don't know, the ills of wealth distribution or government regulation or some such thing. But she was too fast. And the next day, I wanted to talk to her, but I chickened out. And the third day, I went out into the hallway to talk to her. And she was making out with the high school running back. I went home. I burnt my copy of Atlas Shrugged. I became an Episcopalian and a Democrat. And all because Dagny Taggart broke my heart.
The one who broke my heart wasn't either of my husbands. It was Francis. About a year out of college, I met this guy. And I loved the way he looked in jeans. And that wasn't Francis, this was Liam. He wanted to be an indie filmmaker. He was always running around doing this thing, And he used words like, Eisensteinian, and God, I hated watching movies with this guy. But I loved sleeping with him. I liked Liam. But I didn't love Liam. But I really liked him, and I think that's why it was so hard when I had to tell him that I was pregnant, and I think I just said it, I'm pregnant. Well, he came right over. He said all the right things. He rubbed my feet. He made me chicken piccata, but refused me the glass of Chardonnay I wanted. And he asked me if I wanted to get married. I told him I'd think about it. Just, how could he be so calm and sure about this thing when I wasn't? I actually was jealous of his sudden transformation into Mr. Rocksteady. And I could envision him cutting his hair and shaving his goatee and getting a real job writing marketing copy for websites or, database management or search engine optimization. Then he'd be picking this kid up from daycare. Then it would be Little League. And prom and parents' weekend in a minivan and how could he love this kid so much when all I could think was, I wonder how much an abortion costs. I wasn't ready. But he was, and that should have made it better. But it didn't. I don't know. Maybe I was just selfish. God certainly thought so, because 3 weeks later, he took my baby away from me. The funny thing was, my OBGYN was even colder about it than I was. She just sucked what was left of my baby out of me and went to answer the phone. I just lay there in the stirrups, was crying. It was in that moment that I named our little baby who was no more. Francis. I wanted to call Liam. I wanted to talk to him or somebody, anybody about Francis and all the hopes and dreams we'd had for this kid, but my phone was in the other room, and when I left the building, I called, but he didn't answer, and I started to leave a message, but, you can't do it like that. I think it was about a week later when I told him, and Liam was silent. Well, it was his first miscarriage. At least that's what he said, as if that were some sort of excuse for his lack of sympathy. Oh, well, he was just a kid. He didn't know what to say. Neither did I. And then there was Philip. Not Phil, Philip with 2 L's. The name means lover. That was my Philip. We had the whole world together. He was my ream of paper, perfectly square and neat. And when I was 32, after 5 years of wedded bliss, Philip tells me he's been seeing his business partner, Robert. How many times had he been to our house, eating the meals that I cooked, gluten-free at his insistence? How would I miss that? How long had this been going on? And how do you even end up sleeping with your business partner? You'd think after all this I'd be the worst homophobe, but it wasn't the gay thing that rankled me. It was what Philip said next. He goes, I have to be honest with myself. What does that even mean? I mean, was I supposed to be honest with him in those brief moments when I hated, and I do mean I hated the way he slurped his soup, or obsessed over poodles, or purposely pronounced it Volkswagen.
Or how he sang.
Or the way he sang. I think those brief moments of hatred are like the evil part of us trying to get out. And if we can get past it, we can get forgiveness. But if not, we can always say we're just being honest with ourselves.
Susan didn't leave me because I didn't like her singing. She left me because of Chloe. I mean, it wasn't an affair or anything like that. I mean, my life doesn't have that kind of adventure. Chloe was my daughter. Oh. I never really wanted to be a father. But Susan wanted to have kids, and I love Susan, so, what was I going to do? I just figured I would, figure it out, I mean, I'd learned to love the kid, like they say you do. And, after a while, it seemed like it was working. I mean, you look at a baby and it looks at you when it's waking up like you're some great dream it had. I mean, it's the greatest feeling in the world. But, she got older and things got complicated. Like I'd cut her sandwiches into triangles, and she wanted squares, and she'd lose her mind. Or I'd put her to bed at 8, and she wanted to go to bed at 8:30, and she'd sit there and scream like I was murdering her or something. It wasn't what I signed up for, and I know that's selfish to say. I knew it then, and I just couldn't stop thinking it. And it got to where I was, coming home late from work, so I would be home after Chloe already went to bed. And I started to make up appointments and meetings so that I would miss her god-awful dance recitals. Just drive around in the car and listen to music, sit in the parking lot. And then I criticized her. I criticized her all the time. I would criticize her about her taste in music or her friends or what she wore. I'd criticize the fact that she didn't read the great books and spent all her time on Instagram or whatever. And it got to be where I didn't have to try to avoid her at all. She just avoided me. Everything was fine. How was school? It was fine. How's ballet? It's fine. Just fine. Fine. Tell you. There's no darker place than fine. There was this production of Sue's, I don't know, it was Our Town or some Oscar Wilde thing, I don't remember, but I was going backstage to tell her how much I enjoyed it, which I didn't, but I wasn't being honest with myself at the time. And I walked into this black drape, you know, those big black velvet drapes. And I was wrapped up in this cocoon of black. And the more I struggled, the tighter it got. And then I thought to myself, you've done it. You know, you suffocated yourself to death and you're in hell. You know, get ready for the next zillion years of misery and regret. And then I heard Chloe's high-pitched falsetto squeal. And she was telling Sue how much she loved it and how she should try out for the cut-rate production of Cats that the company was going to try. And I realized she loved Sue. She loved her singing. And I hated it. I hated both of them. And I resigned myself to the blackness and the veil. And when I stopped struggling, everything fell away. And there I stood with Chloe and then Sue looking at me like the biggest dork in the world. And if we were a normal family, we would have had a laugh about it, you know? But we weren't. And Chloe stormed off, a mixture of embarrassment and disgust. And Sue looked at me and said flatly, next time that happens, just back up.
My second husband was Oliver. And he tried. He tried to be my Philip. No, but there was just something incomplete about him. So, like, we took this DISC assessment. It's a personality test that was invented by the guy who created Wonder Woman. And Oliver was DI, which is high dominance, high influence, which makes a perfect salesman, but he hated the money. So he just poured himself into getting an accounting MBA. Now, you know, I know a lot of people think accounting is dull, but I just kind of like the idea of it, you know? It's like stacks of paper, all nicely collated. Unfortunately, Oliver just wanted the money, and the first time he took the CPA exam, he failed. So the S and C stand for steadiness and compliance, and Oliver barely registered in either of those departments. He hated taking orders, and while he loved starting things, he despised finishing them, which is probably why it took 12 years to end our marriage. Anyway, the day that he found out he failed the CPA exam, I came home and the house was just reeking of marijuana. And you know, I badgered, I cajoled, I encouraged. And his only response was, well, at least I'm not drinking. By then we were in our 40s, and, you know, I said, Oliver, we have half our lives ahead of us. You know, why are you giving up? Don't you want to contribute something to the world? Don't you want to be with your wife? Don't you want to have a family? No, he said, I never wanted a family. I never wanted kids. Now I never will. Maybe I was wrong to leave. I mean, didn't we vow for better for worse? And even if it's all worse, shouldn't I have stuck it out? Why couldn't we just back up? Why are we so bad at that? Instead, we'd rather flail in the heavy black curtain, wrapping ourselves tighter and tighter.
I mean, we were so young.
And one day you're not. And you want to back up. But you can't. But you know what? Maybe you can. Maybe you call Susan and you tell her you're sorry for hating her singing. And you tell Chloe you will wait out her petulance and her hormones. And when she calls you from the gynecologist's office, you'll be there to listen to her cry. You'll be her ream of paper.
Y'all ready to settle up?
Actually, how about a basil for my friend here and take this abomination away?
What happened to your rule?
You got someplace to be? I got plenty of time.